I'm on my lunch break and I'm not in the office. Normally I would be sitting in my office right before my team gets there, but my wife tested positive for COVID, so my son and my wife and I are all on COVID protocol and we're all stuck at home. I'm on my lunch break while remote working, and what I want to talk to you guys today about is something that I actually stole from Les Stroud. So Les Stroud is a survival expert. I don't know if you know who he is. He's the Survivorman, but he kind of pioneered the survival show, outdoor, survival show genre, and he would walk around with a camera just like this, with the tripod like coming down to his belt, and he would hold the tripod and speak into the camera. And so he also came up with another thing called Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3. The zones of assessment is what he calls them. The zones of assessment are, for Les Stroud, Zone 1 is you. What do you have on yourself that you could use to survive? Zone 2 is what's in your immediate vicinity. What are the things immediately around you that you can use to your advantage to try and affect your survival? And then Zone 3 is further afield. So you need to kind of get up and walk around. Is there a river nearby? Is there a mountain that you can climb and look down upon the valley below and see perhaps where there might be a source of water or some other resources that you can use to survive? All right, I've been walking like 20 minutes already. So that's Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3. I think it's very useful in thinking about leadership to find ways of thinking about the whole thing as a system. And I really love this from Les Stroud for leadership, right? So Zone 1 obviously is you, the leader. And I think it's probably the fundamental zone. I don't know if it's the most important zone. All three of them are super important. But Zone 1 is all about you. So if you're thinking about a leadership plan and developing yourself as a leader, Zone 1 is spending time figuring out what makes you tick, figuring out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. It's reading books. I've said before on this channel that you're not going to develop your own leadership style just by reading books. And I still stand by that. But it is useful to get ideas, inspiration from other people that have maybe gone through the process or have done studies about it or that sort of thing. So go and read some books, figure out what people are talking about with leadership, consume all of my videos, subscribe to this channel, and this hopefully will be like a way to sort of get your creative juices flowing so that as you're doing the hard work in Zone 1, which is developing yourself as a leader and understanding yourself, you can progress in that. So again, Zone 1 is about you developing yourself as a leader, spending time doing it, going out there and trying stuff with your team, failing, keeping a journal, figuring out, what things go right, what things go wrong, and developing yourself and starting to think about, okay, this is who I am. How can I, translate that into a version of me that's a leader? Really, that's Zone 1. All right, Zone 2. Zone 2 for me in leadership is your team. All right, it's what you have direct control over. So in Zone 2, you need to spend time figuring out what makes each individual team member tick. And you also need to spend time figuring out your entire team as a unit. Okay, so like in Zone 1, you could take personality tests. There's a whole bunch of them for free. In fact, I think I'm going to do a video in the future on that. But you could take personality tests right in Zone 1 on yourself to figure out what kind of, on different personality schemes where you fit. But you could also do that with your team. You could do that in like one of your Friday meetings. Say, everybody take this test and this quiz or this personality survey, and we're gonna go over the results together, right? So that's part of that process, figuring out what makes your team tick, not just as a team, but also the individual members. It's also, I think, where you set expectations with your team about how are we gonna behave, right? What's our office environment gonna be like? What are the expectations? To what level are we going to hold ourselves accountable? So what I haven't been talking about here so much is the actual work, like what is our goal? What are we going to achieve? That's zone 3. So for me, zone 3 in Les Stroud would be looking for a river or climbing a mountain to figure out, get a better vantage point. Zone 3 is the competitive environment in which you're operating as a leader. So in this zone, zone 3, that's where you need to assess, threats to your organization or to your team, and also opportunities and that sort of thing. But you can have internal competition and external competition. So if you're, in the middle of your career or just starting off as a supervisor, presumably there's going to be opportunities for you to grow. And so there may be other people that are doing similar jobs to yours that are achieving things at a certain level. So this is where this is super important. You need to figure out what success looks like. So if you do have an internal competitor, let's say, that's doing basically the same job, if they're doing it better than you, by all means, your goal now in zone 3 is to figure out how to perform above that person. So that's going to play back into what you do with zone 1, which is yourself. So like if you have some shortcomings, that person's hitting it out of the park and doing much better than you. You need to grow yourself. Same with your team. If your team is not performing up to the standard, you need to readjust the expectations that you have for your team, communicate that to them, and set yourself on a path to be able to outcompete that internal competitor. But it's also, and perhaps even more importantly, external competitors. It depends on what industry you're in. If you work for a big state bureaucracy, maybe you don't have any external competitors. You're just competing against yourself, or you're competing against other people within the bureaucracy for the next level. So if you're a salesperson, for example, certainly you have competitors in the market that are selling the same thing you are, the same product. Your goal then is to figure out how to get your team at a point where you can outcompete that other organization. Right, so that's zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. These are Les Stroud's zones of assessment. And I think it's a really powerful way to think about leadership, and to think about what it is that you need to do with yourself, with your team, and also with the competitive environment or the competitive landscape that you're in. If you found something useful in this video, hit like. Also as a shout out to Les Stroud, hit like. This channel is all about developing leadership skills with real world practical tips that actually work. And so this is a community. We are all helping each other to try and become better leaders. The goal of this channel for me is to develop a leadership plan. That's why I called it the leadership plan. Is to develop a leadership plan that everybody has access to, that's flexible enough that people from virtually any sort of leadership scenario, any kind of industry, can use to become better leaders, to just level up your leadership. It's very practical stuff. It's not, it's not sloganeering. It's not, sound bites that are gonna like get you pumped up. It's like, no, what do you need to do on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly basis to be successful in your leadership role? Okay, I think my lunch is ready. My mother-in-law is actually preparing lunch for me, and I've probably got in a couple miles on this walk, so I'm gonna sign off here, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.